Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Adult Chair podcast. I'm back. I know it's been a few months, and yeah, I am excited to be back today, sharing with you all that's been going on over the last few months. And I have a special guest on the show with me today, discussing a lot of what I went through because she joined me in that, or she guided me, I should say. So today on the show, we have Jennifer Dawn. She has been a guide to me, a mentor, a friend, so many different things. And I'm delighted to have her on the show. So welcome to the Adult Chair podcast, Jennifer Dawn.
Thank you. And I want to offer to you a huge heartfelt welcome to all of the beautiful hearts that are joining us today,
Yeah.
everyone who has been called and will be called over the days and over time to tune in to all that we have to share together today. It is such an honor and it is a joy to my heart to be able to be here today with you, Michelle, as you step
Mm.
into this incredible new beginning. So thank you.
Mm. I feel that in my heart. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you being part of what I would call like this or the kickoff show after taking this few month break. But before we jump into the break, I just tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do, and just to give them a little idea of that.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Well, I am here at this time in support of awakening consciousness on the planet. I'm here as a healing force. I'm here as a beautiful reflection, guiding people home, home to themselves, home into a bigger remembrance of who we are and more of what's true. So that work takes lots of beautiful forms, from writing to individual sessions to different teaching opportunities, retreats, all of it. So
Mm.
today it means I get to be here with you.
Mm. Thank you. You've been doing this work for quite a while, correct?
I have been doing this work for quite a while. I've actually, I've never known another way of being. So I was
Mhm.
born seeing and experiencing energy and
Mhm.
stepped into this work very, very fully. Um, 25 years ago,
Mhm.
although my journey with it started much earlier. My training started at age 7 and has continued and brought me right here. So.
Okay. Would you be willing to share what happened at age 7?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it wasn't actually that something in particular happened at age 7. Like I said, I was born seeing energy.
Mhm.
And luckily, I was brought up with two hippie parents who thought that was strange enough that about age 7 was when I got to start actually working with shamans and
Mm.
different beautiful people who started to teach me how to hone in my gifts. So I had
Mm.
quite an experience at that time where I had an injury out in deep in the woods and had some miraculous healing happen. And that was kind of a starting gate of sorts that led me into really my heart's passion, which has been to learn and understand as much as I could about the unseen world
Mm.
and to be a bridge to that, to help others find that for themselves in their own meaningful ways.
Mm. Absolutely beautiful. I did not know that about you. So thank you for sharing. Did not know. Yeah, I have to say, over my lifetime, I've worked with many different gifted healers, intuitives, mystics, all these mentors, all different kinds of people. And wow, working with you has really been such not only life changing for me, but such a gift. So I'm just so grateful that our lives came together when they did a few years ago. Someone just handed me your name and said, "Oh, you should have a session." And I was like, and I was so drawn. So I'm so glad for that because you and I have been working together for many years. So thank you.
Mhm.
So something that, and you know all about this, I went through something, and I know it's not just me, which is why I wanted to talk about it today on the show. I've been going through what I said last summer, actually a year ago. So 2024, I remember in the summertime, I started feeling like I was going to give birth. I said, what
Mm.
is going on? It was an energy that felt like it was stirring inside of me and wasn't ready to come out then, but was getting ready to come out. And I didn't know what to do about it. So I did a lot of sitting then, and I was working really hard then. We were launching another coaching program. I was launching a course. We were busy with social media. There's so much going on. I didn't give it the time and attention that it needed. And it just kept growing and growing and growing inside of me. And what that led to was by the time the holidays started coming around, I felt this really transformation that was supposed to happen or going to happen within my company. And I thought, oh my God, what the heck is going on? I feel like I'm here to do. I've always been felt this call since I as well was a little girl. I've always seen myself standing in front of people and helping people transform their lives. And I didn't know what that was. This is an image I've had since I was a child. I didn't know what it would look like. But that's my greatest passion is helping people learn who they are, remember who they are, because who we think we are is not really who we are, right? We think we are the teacher, the accountant, the stay-at-home mom, the owner of a company or whatever. That's not who we are. So I feel like my job has excuse me, my not my job, but my mission, not just in the transforming of people, but I feel like what changed over the holidays for me or over the end of 2024 was I'm here to help people to remember really truly who they are and live from that place, which I would call, I guess, the true self. But yeah, it was a really hard time over the holidays and January. And it was really like this big shift that happened in my company where, I let some people go, people left. I've hired new people since. And it just, as I say it now, it's like, yeah, we had a transformation of the company. Going through it brought it to my knees, brought me to my knees like nothing I've ever experienced. And I likened it. I remember going through it and the grieving that took place and the emotions that were coming through me were similar. I remember thinking about my father that died 20 years ago. I thought this might be worse than that. And that was a hard time for me. But being on the other side of it and walking through it was some of the greatest experiences I've ever had in my life. That experience was probably the greatest teacher that I've ever had in my life. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I'm so grateful that I went through it. I'm grateful for all the people that worked with me before. I love all of them. But I also knew it was time for a big shift, a big right turn, if you will. Um, but I'm noticing as I say this that I'm not the only one that has been going through what I would call quote unquote hard times or transformational things happening. I mean, so many people I've talked to have been brought to their knees or not, or they could be brought to their knees, but they're resisting it.
Yeah.
So the more people I talk to, them, and you and I have talked about this, of course, but on this planet in general, it seems to me that this is happening globally with so many of us. Can you speak to that as far as what's happening on the planet right now that is bringing so many of us through this transformational experience? I don't know what you would say if I went through a dark night of the soul. I mean, do we go through many of those? Because it felt like that, but it was a quickie as far as it being a few months. Um, but I'd love to hear your insight on what the heck is going on, what we're going through, and just guidance for how we keep going, honestly.
Yes, I imagine many of the people who are listening right now can really relate to some of what you are sharing. So let's talk about the notion of dark night of the soul. And the way that I
Mhm.
want to talk about that is I want to bring us into the lenses of awareness of the cycles of life. If we dip in to our ancient wisdom and our connection with the planet and how the cycles of the planet move, the cycles of the natural world. If we stand back, we can recognize there are seasons. There is winter, there is spring, there is summer, there is fall. We can step back and look at a tree and we can say the tree buds and blossoms and is radiant, and then the blossom dies and falls. And yet, in our own lives, when we are walking through our cycles, more often than not, we meet that with some level of resistance, of the discomfort. Our great opportunity is to actually lean into these moments as essential moments in our own evolutionary process, both personally and collectively. So, on the planet right now, very much we are going through what we could call a dark night of the soul.
Mm,
And very often, when people think about notions of darkness, because we are daytime beings, we are light beings, we tend to be more comfortable with the light. And so when we talk about darkness, we talk about it as if it might be something to avoid. And yet, the darkness, our hard moments, and the darkness when we rest are essential to our full embodiment and our full becoming of who we're here to be. So, let me make this a little more relatable to what's going on the planet right now. In many ways, we are in a winter, and the winter asks us, if we are in harmony with it, it asks us to go within. It asks us to be reflective. It asks us to be contemplative.
mm,
It asks us to rest and be quiet. It is not so much a time of doing. And
mm,
we often in our lives, both collective and personal, we can miss those opportunities. And so right now, we're really being asked to step back collectively on the planet. Step back. Let's take a look. Let's reflect. Are we where we want to be? Are we who we want to be?
mm,
And because that's not happening, what's instead happening collectively is there is that embodiment of survival mentality, which means I need to find something to fight against in order to survive. And
mm,
so we're seeing a lot of that fighting happening. And we can pay attention to that in our own personal lives as well. Michelle, you just shared, beautiful example of your own, if you will, dark night of the soul.
mm,
But you stepped into that. You stepped into it and you asked the more beautiful questions. What is here for me in this moment? How might I grow through this experience? And you allowed it to take you to your knees. And that's kind of essential when we're growing, is that stepping into our humility and our curiosity allows actually for our greatest
mm,
emergence into something new.
mm,
And that deep surrender in many ways feels like an annihilation, right?
mhm,
The ego, or the dormant parts of our soul, as I like to think of the ego, those parts are breaking down and it feels like death. It feels like I can't survive this. I don't know what's happening.
mhm,
But what's really happening in the winter or in the darkness of our own experiences is we're actually tending to our soil inwardly and allowing for new seeds to be planted and something new to come. So,
mm,
from that darkness place, for most of us, it requires incredible courageous action, right? Like when we are broken down, something big is asked. And that's exactly what
mhm,
happened for you in your experience.
mhm,
You knew, you followed that deep listening within yourself, that impulse from within you that is pulsing within everyone on the planet right now. If we're here on the planet right now, we're having an impulse within that's
mhm,
asking us to be self reflective, that's asking us to inquire, am I in alignment with who I want to be and how I want to be? And you gave yourself to that process so completely. And then you followed that with courageous action. So,
mm, hmm. I like hearing you say this because so many people I've talked to have, in their own way, in their own lives, they're experiencing hardship. It feels scary. A lot of people feel stuck right now. So, what do you say to people that are feeling stuck? They're not happy. And there is zero judgment as I'm saying this. I'm really truly asking you because people in my personal life, in my professional life, people just friendships, are saying to me, I know something's wrong with me. I know I need to be doing X, but I don't want to. It's scaring me, or I think I should, whatever it might be, whether it be, leave my husband, sit and feel my emotions, or get a new job or start a job, whatever it might be. It's hard. So what do you say to those people that are just having a really hard time? They don't know what to do.
Mm.
Um, Anything?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
It's such a dynamic time for us. Every one of us who is here right now, I like to say we stood in line a very long time in order to be here right now.
Hmm.
And it
Yeah.
may not always feel that way because it is
Hmm.
so intense to be in these lives. We all have our own storylines, but there's an overarching theme of intensity. And what I want to remind people, and when I say remind, it's because this wisdom lives within all of us.
Hmm.
I want to remind us that in every way we are moving through our own evolutionary process. It's
Hmm.
uncomfortable and it's messy.
Hmm.
And if we give ourselves to the process, if we let ourselves be broken down in the chrysalis, the emergence allows us to feel a sense of connection that most people are lacking right now.
Hmm.
We've become disconnected, inherently disconnected with ourselves, who we are, who we want to be, what matters most to us. Become disconnected with the planet, the health of the planet. And in many ways, that translates into feeling disconnected from life and disconnected from others.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, what we want to be focusing on first and foremost is coming back to the deepest roots of our connection, both with self and with our own sense of something much bigger, whether that's spirit, God, planet, earth,
Hmm.
whatever, that we come back to our sense of connection. The dynamic nature of time is not going to stop. Time has accelerated and it's inviting us to become more and more dynamic ourselves. But when we resist that, that is where suffering happens. So, the straightest path through a time like that, which we're living right now, is surrender and curiosity. So, when
Hmm.
someone says, I'm not happy in my relationship, I'm not happy in this marriage, but I'm too afraid to take steps to change that, rather than forcing self to make a change that you're not ready for, go inward and deepen connection with yourself. How do I find my sense of ground, my sense of peace, my sense of enlivenment in my current situation? What can I do to take good care of myself right where I am right now?
Hmm.
If it's related to job, what can I bring to my job that allows more of my own light to shine through that work? How do I create more meaning in what is here for me right now? And as we build that connection with ourselves, we deepen trust with ourselves. And that trust takes us into a place where we are more ready to take courageous action when it's time to do so.
Hmm. So many directions I want to go after all you just said. I was taking notes like, oh, we can go here and there. Wow, beautiful. Are you noticing that there are a lot of people more so than normally, right, with anxiety,
Oh, absolutely.
illnesses? Like I'm hearing it from so many people, and this and I it's from this, would you say, this disconnection? And it's so interesting because we're longing for connection from other, right? We all want this deep connection with others, and yet we have all these ways to connect, yet we're more disconnected than ever on this planet. And I'm seeing anxiety like out of control with people. So when you say to connect with yourself, I'm wondering, can you even go deeper into how we do that? What does that look like? Like, what practice can we do in order to truly connect with ourselves?
It's a beautiful question. I love
Hmm.
beautiful questions.
Hmm.
How do we connect more deeply with ourselves?
Hmm.
Well, In the world that we live in, it's a very fast-paced world, and there's a lot of stimulus constantly.
Yeah.
So one of the most meaningful ways to connect is to create moments of stillness. And those moments can be 30 seconds. Those moments could be 5 minutes. Those moments can be longer. But when we take the time, perhaps in the course of a very full day, when we take 30 seconds to close our eyes, make contact with our body, maybe we put our hand on our heart, and we just take a couple of breaths. And maybe you want to deepen that practice by just inquiring, what do I need right now?
Great question.
What do I need right now?
Mm-hmm.
And you may notice little things come up like, I'm hungry. Oh gosh, that conversation I had yesterday isn't sitting well with me. I think I want to do some repair with that. Oh, I've been moving so fast. I just need to sit for a minute. Those little insights, when we take the time to listen to those, we develop more trust with ourselves. And I know that sounds very simple, but it is very simple. It is.
Mm.
It does not have to be difficult. So that's one way that we do that. Another way that we deepen trust with ourselves is to commit more and more fully, like to allow it to be our devotion, to live into our own unique and most authentic expression of ourself. That actually fosters connection with others, but it foundationally also creates connection with self. When we are so
Mm.
committed to showing up with whatever we're doing, whether we're showing up with work, we're showing up with our kids, we're showing up with our partners, we're showing up at the grocery store as the most engaged and authentic expression of ourselves, wow, does that cause other people to stop and they listen? Because so often right now, as we all know, people's level of presence is not always as
Mm-hmm.
heightened as we might like for it to be. And so when there's a moment of exchange that is authentic and present, it really causes another person to find that in themselves in that moment.
Mm.
And it becomes deeply, deeply meaningful. So this creates and fosters more connection with self, but it also creates connection with other. We want to deepen that connection with self to our connection with the world, with the planet. We want to be, again, asking those more beautiful questions. How am I caring for myself? Maybe even allowing that to be a practice at the end of the day. What were the ways today that I deeply cared for myself? And what were the ways today that I deeply cared for this planet?
Mm.
Because we, at the deepest truth, we are cells on this planet. She is our host.
Mm-hmm.
And so how we care for her impacts us directly. And so those are just some little ways of deepening connection with self.
I love when you just said that by you gave an example of even going to the grocery store and just slowing down and being in self and connecting with self and talking with someone else. You bump into the grocery store and it gives them an opportunity then to also do the same. What a gift to someone else to give them that experience of being embodied and slowing down. It's there's a some sort of in a healthy way, like an activation for another human, correct?
Absolutely.
When we live like this, we're affecting others. So,
Right.
yeah. Oh my
There's a
gosh.
ripple effect.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And as
So
we deepen,
powerful.
each one of us, as we deepen our own roots of connection with ourself, with planet, with other, with spirit, as we
Mhm.
do that, it makes that even more available.
Mm.
Even more available. We anchor those frequencies of consciousness here so that other people find it in their own way. It matters. It
Mm.
absolutely matters. You know, you asked the question, what's going on in the world right now? And I
Mhm.
feel like we could talk about that for 6 hours. But one of the things that I'd like to say about that relates to what we're talking to right now. Because in our universe, what we pay attention to, what we focus
Mhm.
upon, is what we are a part of creating. And this is um, an important part for us to understand about who we are at
Mhm.
our core essence. We are creation and we are creators. And so when we are paying attention to and activated by the chaos on the planet, the suffering on the planet, we are in many ways amplifying that reality, that timeline.
Mhm.
And this is not about turning away from the pain or suffering. We want to be able to look in the eye exactly what is happening. We want to be in truth and in relationship to what is real. But we must also vision beyond to where we can get to and where we can go. And this is a part of deepening connection with ourself too. And for so many people in that loss of connection with self, they've lost the dream. They've lost those more beautiful questions of what really matters to me. What do I want to be a part of creating in my own life, in my family, in my work, and
Mm.
on the planet? And as we reconnect with that, then we start to bring the vision beyond just what's happening in a moment to where we can go. And this is the greatest gift we offer ourselves and humanity at this time.
Mm. It's interesting because I worked when I was had a private practice for so many years. People would ask me, I need help with my passion, my purpose. I don't know how to move forward. Where is it? And what I've realized now is it is by getting in the moment, it's where the magic there's so much going on in the present moment. I never knew how much I would bloop be in and out, in and out, in and out. And over the last year or so, I've been doing a lot more practicing of slowing down little micro moments throughout the day. And it's not been easy because I love what I do and I want to work, 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 work. And my ego takes over and I'm workaholic mode. But what I've realized now is how out of balance that was
Mm.
and how honestly, I don't know what's the right word I'm looking for. It's just unhealthy and ego driven. I don't want an ego driven life. I want a soul driven life. And this process I've been going through the last few months is this deep soul alignment. Like, what do I want to do? And it doesn't come from up here in my head. It's coming from this beautiful space in the moment and settling into this moment. I realize, oh, wait, this is how you connect to yourself. This is how you do it because the disconnected state that we live in using these things, I'm holding up my cell phone for those of you that can't see me, and computers and all the things. It's like, gosh, spend time in the moment. Everything starts to change. It's full of information and intuition and God, source, whatever you'd like to call it. And it's not what you think it is. It's hard to even put into words, isn't it? Like what happens in the moment. Eckhart Tolle's talked about it for years, but we don't. The ego wants to figure it out, but once we get there, it is magic.
It is magic. That's right. There is connection in presence. There is purpose in presence. There is meaning in presence. There is depth.
Hmm.
There is aliveness in presence.
Hmm.
Michelle, I would love it. Will you share with us? You've shared a little bit about the journey it brought you to your knees. You shared about like how you have begun coming into greater balance with yourself. What does that look like for you? What is the magic for you now?
Oh my goodness. I realize that in the beginning of my life and most of my life, well, into my probably my, I don't know, teens and 20s for sure. I just didn't want to be here. Life was hard. And then I started doing personal work. But anyway, let's fast forward now I'm into my 50s. And I finally discovered what it's like to live in the moment and what it's like to truly align. And it is more fun than I've ever had in my entire life. To me, I think about it like an Easter egg hunt or looking for the breadcrumbs every single day. And one of the things, this is a great example. So when I decided to, again, this is all a result of slowing down, feeling these internal nudges of something's giving birth. I don't know what it is. Um, and getting in, climbing in the moment and sitting there. Now I realize I just wait for what's how do I say this? I wait until it shows up for me. So let me give you an example.
Yes.
Uh, I knew that I wanted to take a break from social media and from the podcast from the end of January till I decided the first week of May. And I said, I feel like the podcast is going to change slightly. I want to have different guests. There's some new things coming that I really want to bring through. And people would say to me, well, how's it going to change? And I'd say to them, I don't know, but I can feel in my body and my heart, it's going to change. And they said, well, aren't you getting worried? I'm like, no, I know it'll arrive. It arrives in the moment. If that does that make sense? It was so fun. And then all of a sudden, it
Absolutely.
was so much fun.
Beautiful
And
example.
I'm like, oh, yeah, it's coming because I could feel that it was coming, but it wasn't anything that my ego needed to know. And I realized in my quote unquote old life, before I lived so much in the moment now, not that I'm Eckhart Tolle or perfect by any means, but I'm living here a heck of a lot more than I ever have. But all of a sudden, one day I was talking with someone that actually works for me on the phone, and it just flew out of my mouth. I said, "Oh yeah, the type of guests we're going to have are three different types of guests. We're going to talk more about. We're going to do some again traditional sorts of things that we've done. We're also going to do health and a lot more spirituality." And it was three different avenues that we're going to do now on the show. And I said, "Oh, that was fun. There it is. It just came through. Boom. Let me write it down." So it pops up like again. It's like, oh wow, it just popped up like I just found an Easter egg under a bush out in the front yard kind of thing. But I just keep waiting. I knew that new people were going to come into the company, and out of left field, these people would just keep dropping like angels falling out of the sky. It's crazy. With someone just randomly that I haven't talked to in about 6 to 9 months, reached out and said, "Hey, don't you need someone like this?" And I said, "Yeah, I was going to start looking for them next week." "Oh, well, let me intro you." We ended up speaking. It was a match made in heaven. Boom, hired her. So it was like, this is how my life is now. And now I'm getting in even my dialogue, or when I'm talking to someone, I'll say to them, "Oh, yeah, this is coming." And they'll say, "When?" I'll say, "I don't know. It's coming. I can feel it's coming. I'm just waiting for it to arrive." That my ego is less out of it, and the ego doesn't need to know when, what it's going to look like, how it's going to show up, what the person's going to be like, what the experience is going to be like. I don't care. I know it's going to be amazing. And so I would say, to summarize that, there's deep trust a deep trust. So I hope that gives a good example. And I want everyone to understand what it's like. And it took me a minute to get here. And going through what I went through again from really November, December, it started really probably in the fall, of feeling this, things are going to change and I'm scared, but I also know it's the right thing. It was this complete and total contrast of, I'm so excited and I'm in love with what's coming, and I'm scared shitless at the same exact time. And it brought me to my knees, and then I'd be crying and then I'd be laughing. I'm like, wait, this is perfect. So gosh,
I
like
can't think
yeah.
of a more exquisite example than what you have just shared, because again, so many of our listeners I know can relate. They have an impulse within that's asking them to do something different, and they're
Oh,
just not sure how to get there. And you just gave an incredible roadmap, an example of what it is
mhm.
to allow the mind, if you will, to step
Yeah.
into the back seat and allow the feeling body to become your guide. And that
Mhm.
is something for each of us to be cultivating at this time. Again, such a dynamic time on the planet. We're being asked to evolve rapidly, rapidly,
Mhm.
rapidly. And part of that evolution is really requiring of us that we stop leading with the mind, and that we allow our feeling body to inform our action. That doesn't mean we don't check in and make sure that our choices are reasonable and thoughtful. Of course we do, but we don't force or push through. Michelle is such a perfect example. 6 months ago, it was very, very, very challenging for
Mhm.
you,
Yeah.
very challenging, very uncomfortable. And you could have minded your way through that. You could have thought, okay, I need to do this and I need to do that to force an outcome that I want. But
Yeah.
instead, you let yourself become undone, go into the winter, into the
Mhm.
darkness.
Mhm.
You were self-reflective, you listened, you planted seeds, and now you are emerging. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And I think it's important to note that we're never alone, that we really do have source, God, angels, spirit, God. I mean, they're around us at all times. As you know, as I know, and something that kept me going too is there were days where this just happened the other day. I mean, I looked at the clock again. Every hour I looked at the clock throughout the day, it was 11, 11, 12, 12, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. And those are all messages. So I think if we really, I know if we pay attention, we realize we're not alone and we are being guided, but we have to pay attention. When that hawk flies over your head or your car, pay attention. The birds are they are messengers. When things happen to you, pay attention. There are signs all around us. When we're talking to people, again, throughout my years of working in a private practice, well, I've been praying for this, and I remember saying to a couple of people, like, do you think Jesus is going to show up at your front door and ring your doorbell? I'm like, just pay attention all around you. There are signs. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yes, there are signs. There are breadcrumbs that are being dropped on every single human's life path. But you've got to be willing to slow down, pay attention, and trust. And sometimes you pick up that breadcrumb and you're like, I don't want to do that. That's scary. It's okay. Look at the clock and you might see, 222. Do it anyway. And know that it's all going to evolve and unfold perfectly. In writing this book, the adult chair book that I just finished, um, I remember I was writing it and writing it and writing it. It was supposed to be turned in December, and then I pushed it to January. And then I was going through all of this, right, that we're talking about. And I said, emotionally speaking, I cannot write right now. I can't do it. And then I came back, and in February, I led this great class of new coaches. So I was in that, couldn't write then. So anyway, so I pushed the date off to April. And my ego said, "Oh my gosh, is that the right time?" And I again, I dropped in. I said, "It's the perfect time. It's the perfect time." And I said, "I can feel that it's the right time, but my head's having a hard time with it." And what I realized is that if I had written the book and turned it in December, I would not have some of the most incredible information that I wrote in April, by the way, wrote this in April about the ego, about present moment, about soul alignment, about the adult chair, all of these things. I needed to have that experience to add it to the book. And here's again another sign. I think I shared this with you. I don't remember. I want to share it with everybody listening. So my editor said, okay, I really wanted the book to come out in January, February of 20. It takes a year, so 2025. And she said, well, we can't do it then. The earliest that we can publish this book is May 6th, 2025. And I said, oh my God, that's so far. My ego mind had a little bit of a hard time with that. Not a huge, I said, okay, I can sort of trust it. And I was going for a walk one afternoon. And again, I had asked her if we could change it. And she said, no, we can't change the date. It's got to be this date. I said, okay, that's fine. I'm going for a walk. And I'm just looking around, being really present with everything. And I heard the words, do some numerology on that date of the book launch, of the book release date. And I said, okay. And they said, it's the perfect, I kept hearing my guide say, it's the perfect date. It's the perfect date. I said, I don't know. May 6th, it's like, it's not the best time. Yes, it is. Okay. So I added the date. So if you guys know anything about numerology, for those of you that don't, May is the number 5, 6, right? So I added those two numbers. So that's 11. Then you add 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, right? So that's the number 9. So, and I said out loud, okay, I'm adding it up, 11, 9. And I said, oh my God, 11, 9. And then they said, we told you it's the perfect date. 11, 9 is my birthday. So that to me was another side. And I said, oh my God, okay, it is May 6th, 2025. Here it comes. Okay, that's a good sign. So if we pay attention, slow down, these kinds of things happen. This is how we can live our lives.
That's right.
Yeah. Talk about you and I have talked a lot about this, and this is the buzz on the planet right now. Not everybody talks about this, but we're in the middle of a big shift going from what we call 3D or third dimensional reality to 5D. And I don't want to get too,
Mhm.
out there with it, but can you help explain what's going on? Again, I have friends that don't exactly know this language, but I hear from them quite often. What is with my anxiety? This is so hard, and I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. I'm like, because we're moving into 5D. So can you explain what that means? Like, break it down.
Absolutely.
Thank
So
you.
first and foremost, dimensions are not places. Okay. Dimensions are ways of being. So when we talk about third dimensional ways of being, we're talking more about that me mentality or greed, comparison,
Mm,
separation.
hmm
Fifth dimensional ways of being or fifth dimensional consciousness is rooted in unity, in compassion, in collaboration. Those are just some examples. So that's the first thing to understand. Now, interestingly, the dominant energy on the planet is actually fifth dimensional energy. We made that shift
Mm,
back in 2012. So the
mhm,
dominant energy is fifth dimensional energy. And so what's happening on our beautiful planet is that things that are rooted in third dimensional ways of being, third dimensional practices, third dimensional perspectives are unraveling. They are breaking down.
mhm,
And we're seeing that everywhere, including in ourselves. So, our great opportunity here is to notice, how am I living some of these ways of being that really reflect the planet and the life that I want to live in?
mhm,
How am I living kindness? How am I living passion? How am I living connection? Those are fifth dimensional ways of being, and anything that we create from that place is actually really, um, it's really taking root right now. Those are the things that we will see more and more. And of course, we can all look outward and see everything that is falling apart. And I would just say to that end, I know for a lot of people, there's a lot of discomfort watching our institutions, our governments, all of these things break down.
mhm,
And I just want to plant a seed because inside of each of you, there is an awareness that knows this is an essential breaking down. This is
mhm,
an essential composting process right now. It's uncomfortable. I know it's very, very uncomfortable for a lot of people. It's incredibly scary, but it is essential as it leads us more completely into alignment with our higher timeline, a higher timeline with peace, with love,
mhm.
with kindness, with care, and with connection.
Mm, so well said. Yeah, there are people that I know, a few friends of mine, they're just in such resistance and they get so angry around, oh, this and that, whether it's politics or stock market or whatever the heck it is. Um, and I know that they're not alone. And what something that I've started doing as of a few years ago again is this redirecting instead of looking outside of myself and wanting outside there to change so that I can be happy and I can have peace and joy. I am simply redirecting my energy instead of going out here, but bringing it back to self and asking myself, okay, I need to, again, slow down, breathe through the emotions that I'm feeling, and stay connected to myself. And what I'm noticing when I do that is out there becomes far less triggering. Like, I just don't really, it's not that I don't care. I certainly, oh my God, like looking at the war in Ukraine and Gaza and all of that. I mean, oh my God, and Maui, all of the things. But I don't get completely lost and thrown in it. I'm still connected to myself and I can still send them light and pray and all of those things. What do you say to somebody that is angry, that is stuck in fear, that is, again, not having, um, I'm just going to say when they disconnect from themselves, what do you say to those people?
Well, I
Because
think
it's
you
hard.
actually, yes, it
It's
is.
so hard. It's not easy.
No, but you actually just illustrated for us a beautiful piece that I want to shine a light on as I answer your question.
Mhm.
What you just illustrated for us was a movement from 3D consciousness or 3D ways of
Mm.
being into a 5D way of being. And a 3D perspective is that there's nothing we can do. Our leaders are not doing what they need to do. This is all messed up. That's a 3D perspective. A 5D perspective is this isn't about leaders. This is about how I am in relationship to everything.
Mm.
So rather than looking at the travesty that is happening right now in Gaza and saying there's nothing I can do and going into depression and despair, we need to come back and go, wait a minute, how am I othering myself or people around me? How
Mhm.
can I be embodying more compassion? We tend to look at things happening across the world and then we feel the injustice and the impossibility of it, like there's nothing we can do. But we look right past the ways within ourselves that we may be abandoning or abusing self. We look right past the ways that we could be expressing and embodying and living even more love in our families. We look right past the levels of suffering on our own streets, in our own neighborhoods. We look right past the elderly person a few doors down. We look right past where there is need right next to us. And as we shift more and more to living into our 5D reality, we actually start to pay attention to those things. We pay attention to what is our inner dialogue with self? We
Mhm.
pay attention to how am I taking good care of myself? We pay attention to how am I taking good care of my family, my community, and the people right around me. And
Mhm.
when we do that, we feel more connected and empowered so that that energy that comes through us, that like grief that comes through us when we look at the suffering that's happening on the planet, it's energy. It just needs a place to go. It needs a place to go. If it doesn't have a place to go, it can build up in the body as fear and as anxiety, as stress, as overwhelm. But if we can channel that energy into something meaningful, we're actually creating an outlet for that energy. And we are then a part of the solution. That's embodiment of a fifth dimensional way of being.
So so living more connected to self then is actually helping war in Ukraine, is helping
Absolutely.
Gaza, is helping Israel, all of these things, correct?
Absolutely. If we
Mhm.
think about the beautiful souls in the beautiful people in
Mhm.
these horrific conditions right now, could we be asking them to, um, or expecting them in some way
Mhm.
to meditate and um, to hold this light? No,
Right.
no.
Mhm.
They need to be incredibly present to the situation that is right before them. And yeah, but when we are across the world, when we are in the comfort of our own lives to the extent that we are, we have the ability to make that choice. We
Mm.
have the ability to say, I'm going to vision beyond. I'm going to go help someone who needs help.
Mhm.
Um, we have the luxury to be able to say, what do I need right now that would support this body of mine? They
Mhm.
don't have the opportunity to ask those questions in the same way. So
Mm.
absolutely, when we live that, when we embody that, again, remember we are cells. We are all cells,
Mhm. Mhm.
trillions and trillions and trillions
Mhm.
cells within our bodies, just as we are the cells of this planet. So when we take good care of ourselves, when we take good care of our people, our community, we are absolutely supporting the greater organism of the planet. And that includes all of the other beautiful souls who are here.
Mm. Wow, thank you for that. And I hear from a lot of people too that all of this is as this is happening, there's just a breaking down or dismantling of the way things have been. And that's a really good thing because a
Yes.
lot of these systems, they're not working anymore. I've talked to more people, and I don't want to get into politics, but more people I talk to say, I don't like either side. We need another side. It's like we do. We need that third party. Or I don't like this. I like that. And it just so much, is it this or is it that? It's black and white. No, we need more of the gray. And that seems to be what's happening right now with this breaking down of the way things have been. that are hurting people, frankly, that it's things are dysfunctional. So it seems like there's something new and beautiful coming, but we've got to go through this hard time to
Yes.
get there. It's again, I'm going to liken it to even what I went through. Like I was going through hell, and then all of a sudden things are starting to get better. Not that I'm in any way comparing myself to someone in Gaza or Ukraine, anything like that, but I'm doing it as an individual versus as a country or as a
Okay.
political system. But it's the same damn thing that's happening all around the world with
That's right.
humans, with systems, with governments, with businesses. I can't tell you how many people I keep talking to that say this. This is breaking down, and it should. It's
Mhm.
not healthy.
That's
So,
right. And it's scary. I want to honor for those
yeah.
of you
Oh,
out there
God,
who are
yes.
listening and saying, this is all too much for me. It's too overwhelming to even watch the news. I have so much anxiety. For those of you who are feeling fear about the political climate, I want to invite you to come back to yourself. I
Mhm.
want to invite you to come back to breath. I want to invite you to step into the awareness that even when there is anxiety, you can soften your body, you can deepen your breath.
Mhm.
And from
Mhm.
that place, you can start to align with actions and choices in your own life that allow us to start creating the more beautiful world our
Mhm.
hearts all know is possible, in Charles Eisenstein's words. Uh,
Mm.
that that is what we're doing. But when we get overtaken by the anxiety and the fear or the injustice, we are taken away from a very powerful moment of presence and
Mhm.
visioning. And that kind of comes full circle to where we started this conversation about connection with self.
Mhm.
People feel so disconnected, and the anxiety comes from disconnect. But the path to feeling more connected and to feeling more meaning is to come back to ourselves, come back to connecting with self, come back to connecting with breath, come
Mhm.
back to presence, and look at the small steps that you can take in your own life. And then also, as Michelle had said, pay attention to the things unfolding around you. And when you're ready, take courageous action, because that's
Mhm.
what we will all be called to do.
Mhm.
Collectively right now, again, we're going through kind of this dark night, but we're being asked to be self-reflective, to look at how could we be doing this differently. And just because that may not be what our leaders are doing globally, that doesn't mean that we cannot do that. In fact, it means even more so that it's so important for us to, because when we reconnect with ourselves, we're able to start visioning toward where we want to go instead of having our sole focus be on the anxiety and of the disruption that's happening right now.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. And for those of you that missed the podcast from January 31st, I'll link it below in the show notes because I talk about, again, it goes right back to where we started, which is soul alignment. There's
Mm.
such a comfort when we can truly align with this soul and breathe with it, get in the moment with it and let it guide us. And I went through like I think a 4 or 5 step process on how we do that. So I'll have that podcast below. But anything else that you want to share today, Jennifer? This was so great.
Hmm. More than anything, I just want to remind everyone who's listening that that impulse that is pounding from within you, that asks you to do something different,
Mhm.
that that it is available. You don't have to know every step to take. Just take the next step.
Yes.
And remember, you are here just as we are all here, very much on purpose right now. And each one of us has a unique frequency, a unique way of being to offer as a gift to this planet. So, more than anything right now, find that sense of presence in yourself, empower yourself with the little steps that you can take to create connection with yourself and those around you. And that is our way through.
And when you have that desire, that impulse, I call it feeling moved to take that step. There are times when there might be fear,
Yes.
right? A lot of times. It doesn't mean that you don't take that step forward because the ego is going to throw fear up at you. That's just part of its job. But when you feel that pull to take that next step, do it. Do it, especially when you keep hearing that knock on the door over and over again, and that your soul's saying, move, move, take this step. No, I'm afraid. Take the step. It's like, just close your eyes and take that step and do it.
That's right. And keep in mind that there's a difference between things that are unsafe and things that are uncomfortable. More often than not, when
Mm-hmm.
we feel fear about doing something, it's because it's very uncomfortable for us. It's powerful to check in with ourselves and just inquire, is this really unsafe or is this uncomfortable? If it's uncomfortable, then you can take that part of you that has fear, take that part by the hand and keep walking forward together.
Great point. Of course, don't do anything that's unsafe, but uncomfortable. Gosh, sometimes we got to walk through that. And on the other side, oof, it's a game changer and a life changer in the most beautiful way if you're willing to do that. So
Absolutely agreed.
thank you so much for today, Jennifer. This was amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you for bringing all of your wisdom today and for our kickoff show. Thank you.
I'm so grateful and just sending out such huge heartfelt blessings to everyone who's joining us and all the times
Hmm.
that they will.
Hmm.
Just may you feel a deep blessing from all that's been shared and may it echo into all areas of your life in a meaningful way.
Mm. And where would people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Certainly my website, jenniferdawn.love.
Mhm.
And also, during these times, one of the impulses that had arisen within me a couple of years ago was more and more to create roadmaps and tools for people to be working with.
Mhm.
And so you can also find an Oracle deck that I have been a part of creating, which I am deeply, deeply proud of, that I use in my own life as a companion
Mhm.
through these days as a source of light, and have definitely seen that with others as well. So illuminatedloveoracle.com is another.
Ooh, we'll put all that in the show notes. Don't you have them with you?
I always have them with me.
Let's see. Show for people on YouTube. And
Yeah.
I have a deck. They're beautiful, I have to say. Illuminated Love Oracle. Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much.
Oh, thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Jennifer. Thank you, thank you, thank you.